Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. It is the 6th of December, Saturday. Saturday. Here in Marietta, Georgia. I believe it was 44 degrees the last time I looked, which 32 if you're on Celsius. I think 32 is zero, and then I think it's about 2.5 degrees per degree, so I guess it's probably about 7 degrees Celsius or something. So, which it's like not bad, but it's also very wet. But it looks like if you were to just lay eyes on it, and it looks a lot worse than it is. It is hard though to tell like how much of it just isn't that bad, or how much of it is like getting used to the colder weather. We usually have a few cold months of the year. It kind of comes on slow, and then like in February we have a lot of potential having very cold days with actual snow and stuff like that. And then in March, the very next month, we often will have degrees that are 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll have days, very hot days. So within a span of like 30 days. Now when I grew up in New Mexico, we had days that were freezing cold, like freezing cold, like below 0 Celsius, like 32 degrees in the early morning, and then like at 2 in the afternoon, it may get near 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the same day. So that's the thing. Here's a nut for my buddy Rhett. It's like one of these. I think these are called Brazil nuts. And they have a very strong shell, so I had to cut it for her. And there's like multiple pieces. And so I throw that down there. And I think she's a little scared of, there's like a plant that she keeps chewing up. So every time she kills part of that plant, I sort of wrap it up and put it in her cage, in there. I think she's a little afraid of it. So it looks kind of like a snake, I think. Anyway, so this is me working on my ThreeJS project. If I were to start from scratch, which I do not see any reason to start from scratch, but if I were to start from scratch, I think my very first focus would have been on creating a really good ID sort of scheme. Now, it's kind of weird because the ID scheme we have now, I think it's bizarre. I did get it from ChatGPT, and it's just weird now that I've had time to sort of take it for a spin, because we create an ID, and I've worked in projects where we created IDs on the front end just to kind of keep track of stuff. And then we ran out of IDs. Like the numbers got so big that there were no more integers available. So we definitely I wanted to add like recycling or reusing IDs, like, and all that. And for some reason, ChatGPT came up with creating a array of recycled IDs. And so first it checks to see if there's anything in the recycled IDs, and if it does, then it gets it, which is just absolutely bizarre to me in retrospect, because it's just like, that means that once you've used an ID, you're guaranteed to always have that in memory, whether it's in the recycled or not. And I would rather just get rid of it, like, hey, and have more of a list of IDs that I'm using, and then checking to see if there's an ID, a lower ID, and always using the lowest available ID. So I think that this is just a really strange solution that ChatGPT sort of guided me into. But I do think that what's really important is that we need to be able to print out the current set of IDs and what they are connected to. So that's why I kind of came up with a sequence dictionary concept, where basically if we go to a sequence dictionary, a sequence dictionary can have undefined viz component or visualization. Now, I've kind of did a little bit of research, and it looks like really instead of undefined, I should be using null. Now, to me, null is very confusing because apparently null is different in JavaScript than it is in other languages. I know that in some languages, null is actually a spot in memory, but not in JavaScript. Apparently in JavaScript, null is a primitive, and it is stored as a primitive, and it's a way of saying, "Hey, I have an empty spot here." Whereas undefined does have implications that it is not. What am I trying to say? It has implications that it really should never exist. So it's probably better to use null. Of course, that immediately broke the code. And one of the nice things about null is you can actually test for null. You can say, is this null? But you could actually test for undefined as well. And one of the weird things, apparently, one of the things I believe is null is not false, which, is weird. It's really, really strange. But anyways, so this is probably where I wish I had started. Now, I wish we didn't need to do this at all. Like, normally when you're doing a lot of front-end stuff, one of the best philosophies or ideas that you can sort of disciplines that you can kind of tie yourself to that will generally result in good outcomes is having a single source of the truth. So you're like, hey, I only look in one place to know something. And that was what I tried to do last year. In last year's project, I tried to have a single source of the truth, which was ThreeJS. So ThreeJS would, in my mind, always know what the state of object is. And that ended up being a disaster. And the reason it was a disaster was because ThreeJS doesn't keep track of everything that I want to keep track of. So, and the classics example, but there was many examples, but the classic example that I can always remember is look at. So when you take a camera and you're looking at something, it does not have a concept of, oh, what am I looking at? Or even where am I looking or anything. It just doesn't, that concept doesn't exist in ThreeJS, which is very arguable. Like, they can make a very solid argument on why that doesn't make sense, because like a camera is really just pointing in a direction. It's not really looking at anything. And I guess if you were to say you were looking at something, it does imply like focus and things like that, like in a camera, which ThreeJS I don't think has that concept. So I guess maybe that's why they don't keep track of that. But I wanted to keep track of it. And then there's other things that, so that was the biggest thing that just made it was like, oh shoot, I have to have my own version of the truth in this application. And then secondarily, and not nearly as big of a deal, but still a pretty big deal, is ThreeJS. Okay, so I want to say this in context. If you were to go back in time to Greeks and you were talking about the greatest warriors of all time, can't remember who they are, Spartans. If you were to, the Spartans are supposedly these amazing warriors, right? Historically, we've been told that they were absolutely amazing warriors that were, from birth, were designed and trained to be the best warriors. And if you were to go back in time and they had like, you could find flaws, right? But they're still like the best. That's ThreeJS to me. ThreeJS is the best of the best of the best. So I'm talking about the Spartans of drawing, right? It's amazing. It's an amazing library. I don't want to disparage them, but it's not perfect. And one of the things that really drives me nuts in the ThreeJS world is from object to object to object, they do things inconsistently. So, like I was just saying, oh, so they don't look with the camera, they don't have the concept of look at. But if I remember correctly, that's the only concept in Spotlight. So they have a light, and it has to be trained on something. It has to have a spot that it's looking at. So, like, they actually have the whole reverse scenario set up in Spotlight. And they kind of have that a lot throughout the whole thing, where things are just slightly different. Sometimes they keep track of positions and numbers, and stuff like that based on like three numbers X, Y, and Z, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes X, Y, and Z are individual. There's just all kinds of things that are just a bit inconsistent that make writing code for it difficult. So I want to have my own version where I say, hey, I have a camera and it has something it's looking at, and I know what it's looking at. So that's that. So that's why I ended up needing IDs. And now it's like, well, shoot, I should store what the ID is connected to. And so that is that. But then, like, literally a month ago, I was on a whole kick about, like, don't create references to things unless you absolutely have to. So I, like, literally did a massive refactor to get away from holding references to holding the IDs. And now I'm going to be like, okay, now each ID is going to have a reference. And so it's like, I'm literally completely going back on what I was saying on that. And that is the nature of software development. But anyway, so now we have this sequence dictionary and it's a null. And so I wanted to make it to where I passed in what it is. Like, so, like a string that says, hey, this is a mesh, or this is a camera, or this is a whatever. Well, then I was like, well, why not just pass in the reference? And then it's like, oh wait, I can't create a reference without the ID. So it's a chicken and egg thing. So, like, we've kind of gone through this pattern of like, oh, we need to have an ID. Okay, well, the ID, it'd be nice if the ID knew what kind of thing it was connected to. And then it was like, well, why can't it just know what it's connected to? And then it's like, oh, wait, you can't connect it to something unless it exists, and I can't create whatever I want to create without an ID. So it's been a very, very bizarre trail. And I do think that this is a trail that, like, I would have, if I was heads down just coding and typing, I would have gotten through this trail in like 90 seconds and never even remembered that the trail happened. And I think that is probably the most important aspect on a personal basis for me, is sort of dissecting the software, my own personal software development process. So that's what's happening, and it's just slow, it's painful, and I have like 400 subscribers, and I've been doing this for like 8 years or something, It's like, there's not a whole lot of people that are very, very interested in this, but one of the things that I just have, like, it really makes me happy every time I look at my analytics and I see that a lot of people from India are looking at my stuff at my videos, and I'm hoping that I'm helping some of them, because somebody from India did some videos that changed my whole career. Like, I was really struggling with trying to understand memory in JavaScript, and some dude made like 20 videos describing exactly how memory worked, and I was the only person who watched the last 5 videos, according to the watch. They were at 0, and so no one ever watched it. He didn't even watch his own video at the end there, but it was hugely impactful to my career and to my well-being, to my mental well-being, those videos. So, I feel like I owe India a little something, like some help. So it does make me very, very grateful every time I see that I have people from India watching my videos. Now, Bangladesh recently passed India as my #1 country. The United States is always on there, but they're always like 4th or 5th. Sometimes they'll climb up to third. But typically, most of the people who watch my videos are from India or from some other country. And sometimes it'll be Brazil, sometimes it'll be like Bangladesh, sometimes it'll be China, sometimes it'll be, I don't know, there's a pretty big handful of places that will be number one and number two, and then the United States is usually number 3 or 4. Most of my videos get like 6 to 8 views, so that's that. So anyways, that is kind of thing that I will often talk about on Saturday and Sunday because I have a little bit more time to do stuff. My wife has a business, so you know she's down there, especially right now because this is her busiest time of year. So she has like stuff to do. So this is kind of how and it's cold, so you know I just kind of want to stay inside and do some code and hang out with my bird and hang out with my dogs. So what we want to do next is, I guess what we should do next is, I guess we should try to get away from this whole recycled IDs thing, and then concept. Just comment that out, and then basically what we want to do is look in our sequence dictionary and find the lowest number available from that dictionary. So like one thing I can imagine doing is just counting, saying, hey, check if 1 is in there, check if 2 is in there, check if 3 is in there, and whatever. But that probably wouldn't be the, so for now I'm going to do that. That probably wouldn't be the best way to do it. That's probably how I would do it if ChatGPT didn't exist. But because ChatGPT exists, it probably makes a lot more sense to ask ChatGPT to sort of, basically what I'm doing is saying, hey, can you look through all the existing solutions that you have access to, and then figure out which one most people like the most and show me. And then that's such a weird, so I was asking, I found that like my favorite channels to watch seem to have between about, usually more than 300 subscribers, but less than 1,000 subscribers. And normally the videos have less than 100 watches. And very often less than 10 watches. And those are my favorite. I just enjoy watching those videos. But I don't know why I came up with the title of why small channels thrive. Because small channels don't thrive. At least not in a way that I have any vision of. To me, it looks like small channels do awful. You know, that now, you know, generally small channels are, most people that do small channels that have 300 to 1,000 subscribers are, most of them are someone who's just talking to the screen and they're just kind of sharing their thoughts. And most people get really deep into something, and normally I don't want to get as deep as they are, but I actually want to see the reality of it. I find that if there's over 1 million, like if they have over 1 million subscribers, they're telling you how it should be. Like, this is how they'll say this is how it is, but really what they're saying is how it should be. So they're like, oh, you should use server-side rendering. So they'll say, oh, the best practice is to use server-side rendering, but it's very possible that doesn't even work, right? So like, those are like kind of the corporate, like you don't get to 1 million subscribers and all that without just selling out is one way of putting it, but it's got a negative connotation. But unless just really embracing the dogma, the existing way of thinking by the institutions. That's probably the best way to put it. But it's probably not actually how things really are. But it's good to know how the institutions want it to be, and it's good to be able to speak to that. So there's a lot of value in million plus subscribers, in like kind of just trying to get a sense of what the people with all the money want you to do. But there's really very little value in how to do it, and I find that the most value comes from, if you want to know how to do something, comes from people with 300 to 1,000 subscribers. But thrive, I guess maybe they're saying thrive from like YouTube's perspective. Maybe YouTube's like, man, of the 100 million people that are looking at stuff, 90 million of them are looking at small channels. Maybe that's maybe that's what it is. I don't know what those numbers are, but it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if the vast majority of people are doing exactly what I do, and they like to look at small channels, not big channels. But anyways, I want to know. Okay, so dictionary in JS. So that's what we have. We have a dictionary in JavaScript, and the keys. These are numbers. Now, I want, when I add a new ID that I use as an ID, that I use as IDs. When I add a new ID, I would like to use the lowest unused ID. So this is what I think I want. Get next ID, ID1. So that is exactly. I mean, I wouldn't use a while loop. There's a few things that I've noticed in life that I can't really explain. One of them is, if you do a get push force, you will probably be fired within the next 6 months. I don't know why, but I've noticed if you use it every once in a while, whatever. But if you work in a place with a bunch of people, and you do get, and you regularly do get force push, no matter how secure, no matter what kind of job you have and what level of security you have, you're going to get fired. Not for that, but you'll get fired. It's just an observation. I've noticed that if you ever use while loops in JavaScript, you will get an infinite loop. It's going to happen. No matter how hard you try, you're going to end up with an infinite loop. So I try really hard to avoid what? Okay, I really try hard to avoid while loops. What is this one? Wait a second. I don't. Oh, that's funny. Okay, if this is using this, I was like, how the heck does this give you? And it was like, oh, because it uses this function. More efficient for large dictionaries. Okay, so this one does a bunch of stuff, and it sorts it. So this is a little bit more efficient because it sorts it first. I don't really know why this is more efficient though. Okay, or sparse. Okay, so I don't know. I don't understand that. Okay, so I can envision having millions of IDs. Will this be performant? Will the first solution be performant in a on a modern computer laptop? With millions. Question mark. See, it might not even matter. Like sometimes, if your IDs are mostly sequenced and you rarely skip numbers, the first one will still be fast. Even with if the IDs become sparse or fragmented, performance can degrade. Okay, so it says I should be good, even with millions of IDs. All right. I don't understand why. I guess what's blowing my mind is I don't understand. I think fragmented would be better because I'll hit the numbers faster. It seems like. Wait, why would the gaps? Okay, I don't understand why huge gaps would be slow. If you mostly add IDs in order, the simplest version is fine. Okay, so the idea is that, 1, 2, 3 numbers up as the object objects that they are associated with are deleted. Okay. Slow, even if the smallest number is high. Okay, so track the next ID and free IDs. When you need a new ID, if free IDs has a value, return the smallest one. Else, return next. See, this is weird. So we're kind of back to storing the IDs, the recycled IDs. Okay, so, okay. I hate how, I wish it would not just go off on these big rants, because I usually have a question from something at the very beginning and I have to scroll through a bunch of stuff, and then it may have already said something because it said a whole bunch of crap. Okay, see, I was thinking that if I ever have a million IDs and then I delete everything, then I will end up with a million IDs sitting in an array with the free IDs approach. Which is wasteful. That's a smart catch. Smart. If you delete everything, there's no active objects, then all IDs are free. You don't need to keep them all stored individually. Track only when IDs become fragmented. Instead of storing all available IDs, store only ranges or non-contiguous gaps. Maintain a range instead of individuals. Used. I think this is not, the complexity of this is just going to be very difficult to maintain. Lazy reset. Option C might be lazy reset. Seems like it might be the thing. I've never heard of this before, but it seems like don't ever hold more than 10 IDs in the recycled IDs. And maybe have the 10 lowest or something like that. Okay, so, oh man, this is just such a weird thing. And this is the kind of thing that once you've done it a few times, it's probably you just do it in your sleep. And there's probably a very basic way of doing this, but next ID is -1. Private current ID is 0. Okay, I think I'm just going to go with the very, 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 very first thing and just assume, which is basically what I wanted to do in the very beginning, which was you're going to just go through each ID. I probably won't do the has own property. I'll probably just convert it to a dictionary. Convert it to an array of IDs, sort the array, and then start at 1 and go to another number. And the main reason that I think this is okay, this is not great. I think that I have faith in myself that I will come up with a better solution. B, I'm absolutely confident that fixing this is not going to affect, and it won't won't trigger a big refactor. It's all going to be internal to this. So if it does indeed become a problem, it's just man, this is taking forever. What's taking so long? Oh, every time it generates an ID, it takes it a tenth of a second. Because a tenth of a second basically kills an animation, right? If it's oh, it's going to take it a whole tenth of a second to figure out what the next idea is. It's you're going to have a very strange. Well, maybe not. It won't. I guess it won't affect animations because, when you're doing the animation, you're trying to watch the animation. You're not adding or deleting anything. So, well, crap. I guess maybe I'm worried about nothing, because that's true. The only time it's going to matter is when you're actively editing it. But no, that's probably not true actually, because because we probably at some point will write a feature where you can, it can create things like specific things so that as part of the animation and it, but I wonder if when it creates those things in the animation if we'll even give it IDs. I guess we won't. We probably won't even give IDs to something that's invented. I don't know. Yeah, that whole thing. As we look into the future, it's like it becomes very, very foggy, like what we're going to need there. So I do think that let's just keep it simple. Let's just go ahead and look for the lowest available number, and then which is going to be 1. So what we'll do is, and then I guess at some point we may decide we want to do like an IDs, available IDs, reused IDs, something like that, and hold like 100, the 100 lowest IDs in there or something, and all that. But we just don't know, like, because you're kind of, we're not in an unlimited ammo situation where, like, we have CPU processing and we have memory, and we're going to have to balance those two. And right now we are just flush with both. We got plenty of memory, we got plenty of CPU. I have plenty of CPU processing. But if we do bump into a limit on one of those two, then and we have extra on the other one, that's when we'll be able to like tune this to be more specific to our needs. But we don't even really understand our needs yet. So basically what I want to do is get an array, I guess, const, and that is going to be used IDs, and it is going to be an array of numbers, and it is going to be sequence dictionary dot, I think it's like object. Yeah. Is it object? Keys. Sequence dictionary. And I think it's telling me that this is going to be object keys. Did you mean number? Oh, that's funny. All right. Now this is saying, I think that this is going to be a string. All right, so probably so here we're actually checking the ID against the object as opposed to turning it into an array of numbers. We're using like all right, so basically we're going to get a string back. I guess that's, even though they are all numbers, we're going to get an array of strings back. Strings. And then, but we want to, let me see, is this expensive? Geez, why does it give me, why is it so chatty? I mean, it's just like, I gotta scroll up. Okay. Converts keys to strings. Million keys. each new object. Okay, so yeah, we probably don't want to do that. And that is exactly where I was headed. So I feel like, okay, so I guess we should keep, every sequence should also go into a used IDs array too. Used IDs number. So this is a bit like pricey from the memory perspective, but it is a lot cheaper than yeah. Now, okay, so now I'm really starting to see the wisdom of their original, like, oh, just go and look to see, figure out what the next one is, and then go to look to see. So basically, I guess what we should do is go like more like this. And I guess maybe we have to use a while loop. I don't really like using while loops. But you know, that's why rules were made, to be broken. Well, I guess we'll just do like let found equals true. It's false. We haven't found one. And then wow. Oh, we don't even need that because we're gonna say, oh, I have so much, like, I don't know what people would call these days, like trauma when it comes to while loops. Okay, so I'm going to call next ID is equal to 1. While next ID. Yeah, so this is all the way to the beginning. Yeah. Okay. I cannot believe I'm using their exact implementation. I'm going to call this sequence dictionary. This as a property of next ID. And we're just going to enter it. If we find it, we'll just add that number, and then we will return next ID. And I think we want to get rid of all of this. And then recycle ID is just going to say delete Navidad sequence dictionary next ID. Oh, I guess I call it ID. Man, that was a lot of thinking and stress over what turned out to be a very small amount of code. Now, to me, one of the things that's really cool about this is that it's really nice because like we have end-to-end tests that will absolutely. I'm actually curious about the unit tests too. Like, I'm pretty sure we have. Well, yeah. Let's see how this works out. Add this. Add this. Uh-oh. It is not working. What is the problem? That is wild. I feel like it did add them, but apparently it didn't. Delete. Add. Add. Wow, look at that. And we don't have any errors. Add. Delete. The animation doesn't work anymore. How in the world did that break that? Let's look at this here. This is not the best view. There we go, that's better view. All right. So all we're doing is returning. Oh, we never put it in. Silly rabbit. Back to this view. Back here. That is hilarious. Sequence dictionary. This sequence dictionary. ID is equal to, and its next ID is equal to null. So yeah, it was just returning 1 over and over again. I probably had a whole bunch of objects with the exact same name. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead. I feel like, oh, well, okay, so we will need to now retrofit our code to add the, let's do this. This sequence dictionary. I think this is what I want to do. We're going to have to configure or go back and retrofit like the camera and all the different pieces to then also update their sequence with their object once the sequence gets created. Okay, that is crazy. Oh, no, it isn't crazy. It's not crazy because this is for like the this is for one of these is for the visualization, and yeah, these are all for different things. So that is pretty cool because it just like instantly like clarified things for me. It's like, yeah, no, when I hit that, I create 9. I knew that, but you know, it's like, you know, I didn't have that at the top of my. I was like, I should have this. So all of these it got called all these times, and then it did this. So I believe there's like a console table too. I don't know if it can accept a dictionary. Oh yeah. See, that's so cool, I think. Now it'll be very interesting to see. I don't know where that's coming from, but oh, it's coming. Oh, then at the bottom it actually gives you the whole object that you can negotiate your way into. All right, so I think that is good. Now let's just run our unit tests. so here in the States, since I know most of you don't live in the United States, so I don't know if you guys have this issue where you're from, but our food is very, very, very like it's not very nutritious. We don't have very nutritious food in the United States, so everyone who I know that is in any way like healthy. There's a lot of unhealthy people, but anyone who I know that's like pretty healthy takes a lot of supplements because it's just not in our food. So usually I do mine in my drink, or a lot of them, but it does make a huge difference. Like when I was younger, I didn't need any supplements, and most young people I know that are pretty fit and athletic and all that, and then that are active, take a lot of supplements. So it's just like one of those sort of realities in the U.S. now, that we have a very, very non-nutritious diet. It's like it doesn't matter, even if you do eat like nutritious food, the food itself is just not very nutritious. It's a real shame. But I guess those are the kind of things I think about when I'm waiting for unit tests to get rolling and waiting for and I guess there's absolutely no reason not. It's so funny, but we can actually run our end-to-end tests too. And that I think we can run. I think it makes total sense to run it as npm run Cypress, and I believe it's test. I can't remember. Package.json. Run. So, npm run Cypress run. Run Cypress run. There you go. Now let's just come in here. This is a very relaxing session for me. So we got 100% passage. So let's see what our test coverage is. I am guessing we're at 100%. That would be my guess because both of those functions are getting called and there's no logics, no weird looping or anything. And I do have a while loop, and you will rarely ever, I will do a while loop about once every 3 to 4 years. So, but I just cannot think of a better way to do it. I will generally, if at all possible, if it makes any sense at all, I will avoid a while loop. But I have one. I may regret it. It's gonna be so hilarious if it comes back to bite me. All right. So yes, sir. Oh crap! We do have the one failing unit tests. I mean Cypress test, so it probably won't. It'll probably stop there. So open. That's the thing that's kind of a bummer about like it's nice to have failing tests so that you don't forget to do something in the future, and because the failing test would be super easy to forget in the future, and basically what happens is there's some sort of timing issue that when I do a resize, the time, it doesn't draw to the last size, so I have to figure it out, but I wanted to move on to the next thing, and I did want to try and understand so in a real production environment you wouldn't want to have a failing test like that because the CI/CD would fail, your builds would fail. You'd be like, there's a failing test, the build fails. But it's like, this is us saying that in the future we're going to fix this, and we want to make sure we fix it by having a failing test. I know it, rat. Alright, so that one passed. I believe that one's done. Okay. Passes. guess that's what we're looking for, is that passes up there at the top. But see, the whole top scrolled off. This is our keyboard. I think it's done. Resize, I think resize is the one that fails. It fails really tragically on this. Or maybe it's delete. Yeah. Like everything happens so fast that with this that it actually fails real bad. Like this should be like a square right now. But like physically, I don't move nearly as fast, so it's not as visible. Like it's a little bit off, but barely. When I'm manually doing that exact same behavior. That was the main reason why I was just like, okay, I don't want to just spend the next week in a route hole to fix something that won't even really be perceptible. So something huge is happening here today in the U.S. or in Georgia, because people around here, we love football, American NFL football and college football. And I would say college football might actually be bigger here than NFL football. And the Georgia Bulldogs are going to be playing Alabama today, and it's been a fierce rivalry for decades. So. And for me, like college football is over when the SEC championship is over, because I feel like the nationwide version of football appears to be so insanely corrupt that it's just not even watchable. But and I'm not saying that. I feel like even like at the youngest ages, American football is fascinating because there's a lot more to it than just athletics. There's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes and stuff like that. So it's fascinating. The more you dig into it, the more interesting it gets. But they kind of can take it too far. So anyways, that looks like that is that. And this is video 327. So we're going to do a commit. I guess we're going to do an add first. I feel like everything is nice and clean. I do think this is a massive improvement over the old way, and I do think that the next step will be to start after I generate an ID to then update as soon as whatever object it's assigned to gets created, then add that object to the ID. Now, I think I have a concept. I do have multiple objects sometimes. I think there's like a 3 version of an object and an ST version of an object that both share my same ID. And so I guess maybe, that will be another thing, is like maybe we'll add like add 3 object or an add ST object to it. But because I don't think I want the 3 object to have its own. Oh no, I think we will need that. Oh, so the 3 objects actually. No, I think an ST object can have multiple 3 objects, because I want you to be able to reuse objects between views, right? So when you have 2 of these, I want to be able to reuse objects in between one of those. So it'll be the same ST object, but it'll be 2 different 3 objects. So actually, I think it's an array of 3 objects. And like that, actually, that concept, well, I kind of knew it under the like below consciousness. I did not know it at a conscious level, and that's already, I think, in my opinion, has this has bared fruit because of that. All right, so git comment. So we're going to do git status, git, and then our comment. I just want to find an old one. Man, these are one of my. There we go. Oh, so I did a commit yesterday. Oh, okay. So, and this is actually going to be a full-blown super commit, right? Because this is a code commit. And it refactors the sequence generator. And in my mind, in this scheme that we have right here, I know that this is 327 actually. Okay, so I didn't. This 320. This is video 327 yesterday. So I did not do a commit yesterday. Did a commit the day before yesterday. But so this refactors, and it's a super commit because we don't need any unit tests, new unit tests. We already still have 100, and we don't need any new Cypress tests, and none of them failed. So it is actually a super commit. Maybe, I don't know, brackets super. And that means that it is appropriate to roll back to this version, in my opinion, at this point. So we are creating I'm creating my own little sort of language documentation scheme. So that is it for today. Tomorrow I will start probably with the camera. I think the camera is the most advanced one of the types, but probably with the camera I'll start. I will populate when I generate the ID. Once I've created the camera itself, I'll populate the ST object with that camera, and then I guess and then we're already hit up on like the camera also has a ThreeJS object, and so I will also, and that needs to be an array because it could be multiple cameras. Like I want to be able to describe a camera and show two different things with that exact same camera, but ThreeJS does not have that functionality, but I want that functionality, so I have to implement that on the ST side and then use the ThreeJS code to handle that, So anyways, that is that. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.